Well, good morning, everyone. Great to be hanging out with you again today for my Repertoire Rap series. We're up to number 6, and today's video is all about teaching cool classical arrangements that kids love. And some of you are going to be a little bit surprised, I would imagine, to hear me talking about classical music, because a lot of what I give courses about and give lectures about and to present at conferences about is all about pop and modern music and approaches to teaching that. So you may be surprised to know that I actually teach a lot of classical music, and it's something that I love playing myself as well, because there's no doubt that classical music is one of the best ways to improve your technique, right? And it's also great music, there's no doubt about that, and kids love it. And the reason I really enjoy using some of the music that I'm going to show you today is because just as I use pop music as a hook to keep kids motivated and interested, I also use classical music in the same way. So a really good classical arrangement of a piece of music, particularly something that's used on TV or an ad or that's just really, really famous, kids will go, that's cool, I want to learn that. And we all know how much kids love playing for Elise, for example, right? And it's the same kind of thing, but there's plenty of other pieces of music out there that are great hooks for kids to really help them, motivate them, and get them perhaps back into practice if they're starting to trail off a little bit, or you're having any trouble engaging them. Then a really good piece of classical music that's an easy, simplified arrangement that's not going to take them very long to learn, that they know how it sounds, that adds that relevancy for the student and really helps connect it to their modern day life. And a lot of the great classical pieces have been used, excuse me, putting my cup of tea down, have been used in advertising, so kids know them. They're on car ads or selling something, who knows? There's all sorts of different things. Good to see you there, Biff, live on the call. So people in the States, it's about 6:30 p.m. Hopefully I've caught you just before dinner time. It won't be too long today, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through, what have I got? 5 different books or series of books that I think are essential for teachers to have when it comes to really good classical arrangements. And these are all generally at the easier level. So we're talking late beginner, early intermediate kind of level. The other thing I'm going to show you is a great site that I use online for free online arrangements of classical music. Now, the great thing about classical music, of course, is that it's all out of copyright. Anything greater than about 70 years written previously, 70 years ago, tends to be out of copyright. So arrangements that you find people, taking a Beethoven symphony or a Chopin waltz or something like that and making it their own, as long as it's not clearly a photocopy of a book, if it's someone's personal arrangement, then anyone can do that. You could do it, I could do it, and that's totally fine as long as it's not a copy of a published version of that book, if that makes sense. So I'm going to show you a great site out there that has some really great, fun, free arrangements that I've used many, many times to inspire and grab kids. So let's get started. And as usual, if you like a piece of music, would love a thumbs up, and feel free to click that share button if you think this is going to be useful for anyone else who hangs out on Facebook with you. Now, I'll just say too before I start, most of the pieces that I'm talking about are arrangements of classics. So they're fun pieces of music that a full version is either an orchestral work or something too difficult, or the piece of music itself is too hard. So a lot of these are simplified arrangements. Now, I like that for a number of reasons, but mostly because if you're using a classical arrangement to really engage a student and maybe just grab them back if they're on the edge of maybe not continuing their lessons or something like that, then you want something that's relatively easy but sounds great and has a really good arrangement. And so that's what I'm going to show you today, because I know just about every piano teacher out there knows where to go for original works by Haydn and Mozart and Handel and all those kinds of things. So today it's about arrangements. Now I'll just give one more caveat to that, and that's to say that I love original versions of classical music, and they are, the best things to use if you possibly can. So I wouldn't advocate a diet of only arranged, simplified classical works. I think students should learn some proper Beethoven or Bach pieces. There are nice, easy ones out there. What I'm talking about today is those great, fun arrangements of tunes that kids know, and that's what I'm really getting at today. Tunes that students know that they're going to really hook into. Okay, so let's get started. First book I'm going to show you is called Piano Time Classics, and this is actually the More Piano Time Classics. So this is book 2 in the series. I'll just play you a couple of arrangements from this. Again, they're nice and short. Look, there's 3 on these 2 pages here. So really, really accessible. Kids can learn them fast, have a lot of fun with them, and bang, you might be able to then get them onto something else, okay? So here's a version of Handel's Largo, which I thought was really good. Okay, nice, straightforward, rolls along with a bit of pedal, beautiful arrangement, and it's just so simple. I mean, that's an early intermediate piece at the hardest. There's also, pieces like the Canon here, Dido's Lament, there's the Sonata, Mozart. Again, they've been arranged so they're nice and easy to learn. I like this version of Morning from Peer Gynt. And I'm going to show you an even more simplified version of this when I get to one of the online resources I was going to tell you about. There's the Polozzian Dance from Prince Igor as well. You know, all the good classical tunes that kids are going to know. The last one I want to show you from this is Trumpet Voluntary, one of my favourites, and one that students around the world certainly enjoy playing. Now maybe when it comes to something like that, you could work on the trills with the student or just take them out entirely. But it's a good little introduction to that. It's an important part of playing Baroque music. So it'd be a good one to introduce. So that's More Piano Time Classics. I think there's 2 books in this series. I mean, there's a number. There's Piano Time Pop and Piano Time Fun, and I think there's a whole lot of different ones. But I think this is a really great book. Now, if you've got... if you don't want to take notes or anything today, then just head to timtopham.com/rap, R-A-P, and you can grab all the links to everything that I'm talking about today. So that's the first book. Second one is the Piano Works collection. Give me a thumbs up or a heart if you know about this, or perhaps you've used it before. This is by Janet and Alan Bullard, and this again is book 2 in a collection. This is the one that I use the most, so I thought I'd show you that. One of the first pieces in this book is Pastime with Good Company. Now, I actually learned about this from accompanying choirs at my last school, and this is a really simple arrangement of an old, like this is from the 1491, this is Henry VIII wrote this piece, right? 1491 to mid-1500s. So it's really good if you want to explore with students that, I mean, it's almost medieval sounding. Yeah, have a listen anyway. You could instantly see a medieval court and jesters and banquets and things like that. Like it's a really good piece. It's really simple, and if you want to explore that style of music with students, then it's a great one to check out. In this book as well, we've got things like this tune from Rigoletto. And again, I find that when I start playing, as soon as I start playing these pieces, students just, they light up. It's a little bit like, playing them, an old friend that they didn't really know that they had. They've suddenly realised, oh, there's some really cool classical tunes out there. Thanks, Tracy, you like that one as well. It's good to hear. Now, this book, I should mention, does have some modern works in it as well, so it's a good little mix. There's a variety. A couple of the other classical arrangements I like. There's the Brahms Sunday. there's some Reinecke, there's Bach, there's all sorts of different people in here. What's one of the other ones I like? Oh, and I'm not going to play it except to play the intro, just to show you that this piece is in there as well, because we generally always teach this at some stage. Etc. Right, you know that one. So that's also in this book. So if that's a piece that you teach, and that's of course an original arrangement. So this is a good mix of a couple of great classic arrangements that kids are going to know and simplifies things for them, and then some originals, which is a good mix to have there too. Thank you, Sandy. I'm just noting your comment about Rigoletto and the quartet, which is the movie, right? I haven't seen it, so I don't know exactly what you're referring to. You'll have to enlighten me at another stage. All right, the third book that I want to mention today is It's Never Too Late to Play Classics, which is this one here. It's by my good friend Pam Wedgwood. Now, I've mentioned Pam in a couple of Repertoire Raps already, and I thought, oh, it'd be good to, show some other composers, but you know what? I couldn't go past this book. Pam just puts together great arrangements, right? So this one is a slightly harder level. Not too bad, not too much harder. It's got this one in it, in a similar kind of style, slightly more complex, but I like I Vow to Thee My Country from The Planet, so this is in here. So that's a great one for students to learn too. It flows along really nicely. Some of them may have even sung it as part of their schooling, who knows. This book's also got this gem in it. Sandy, it's about a retirement home for musicians, the quartet. I'll have to check it out. I have heard of it, but I haven't actually watched it. All right, also in Pam Wedgwood's book is a simplified version of the Raindrop Prelude. Now this is pretty popular, and I find most students recognise it. And this is the version in C major. And if you didn't have perfect pitch, and I actually played it without mistakes, you'd probably go, yeah, that sounds pretty realistic, I think. Now, one of my favourites in this book is the Chorus of the Hebrew Slaves from Nabucco. Really great piece of music, good arrangement, and it's been used a fair bit, so kids do know about this one. Give me a bit of a thumbs up or a heart if you like this one. How nice is that? I would actually quite enjoy playing the whole of that piece. Nice, simplified arrangement that can be really appealing and can capture students. There's Fantasy Impromptu, Flower Duet, Rondo alla Turca version, lots of great stuff in there. So It's Never Too Late to Play Classics, Pam Wedgwood. Great book as well. All right, on to Beethoven. Now, we all love Beethoven as piano teachers, I know. And I know some people are going to cringe at me suggesting some simplified Beethoven arrangements, but you know what? There are some winners in here. So this is called Beethoven Gold. There's also Mozart Gold and Bach Gold and all different collections. It's the easy piano version. So just make sure when you check the link at timtopham.com/rap, you'll be able to get the link to these books. So the thing I like about this is that if the Beethoven piece in it is relatively easy, then they actually put the full version in. So for example, we've got the Écossaise. Okay, etc. So that piece is in there complete, and I'll play a couple of other ones that are complete and in their original form. But then we also have some simplification arrangements, so simplified arrangements. So this is the second movement from the Emperor Piano Concerto. play on, but I'm not going to because we'll run out of time. That's a great example. That's what the music looks like. A great example of a simplified arrangement that just sounds really, really warm and is engaging, and it's achievable and it's approachable. And I think they're the main things that I like about this. So also in here, you've got some of Beethoven's other classics, again in simplified version. So you'll know this one. And again, for an untrained ear, and if you don't have perfect pitch, you listen to that and go, you know what, that sounds pretty much like I know the original sounds. It's clearly not quite as rich and warm because it's missing some of the harmony, but it's pretty good. And it's that kind of thing that I think will really capture students. Now, the next one I'm going to play you is a simplified version of the Moonlight Sonata. And before you groan, I just want to tell you I've saved quite a few teenage students with this very arrangement of this piece. It's in E minor. Etc. So moves between the right and left hand. Nice to see a thumbs up for that one. Let me know if you are enjoying these. It's this kind of music that if you've got a teenager or an adult who's just, they're quite new to music and they haven't learned, they're not very fluent with their reading perhaps, and you're not so strong on the pop or the improvising, then this is the kind of piece that you could teach quite well. It's very chordally based, so it's got some great teaching points around chords and progressions and things like that. This kind of work can really capture particularly teenagers because it's almost got that film music kind of sound to it. Teenagers and adults really like this. So that's the Moonlight Sonata simplification in this book, Beethoven Gold. Jackie's asking, although simplified, are they in the original keys? It depends. This one obviously isn't in C sharp minor. This is in E minor. So a lot of the arrangements aren't in the original keys. The last one I'll play from this book is another original. So this is another piece that many piano teachers teach. I've taught a number of times. It's the Sonatina in G major first movement. And this is, again, the original. So it's a great mix of, if it's easy, they've got the original pieces in here. So it's... Sorry about my slightly rough handling with that piece, but I think many of you know it. A lot of us teach it. It's a great introduction to Beethoven for students. So that's the Sonatina in G major. That's the kind of music that you'll find in this book. So it's the easy piano version of Beethoven Gold. And look, I haven't checked out the other books in this series very much. I've had a brief look at a couple of them. So if I do find that they're useful, so the Mozart and the Bach, and I think there's a Chopin one, I'll let you know. But again, might be worth checking out while you're on Amazon or wherever you buy your books. See if you like some of the other versions in there. Okay, now the last one, I couldn't find my book for in this morning's rush to get organised. It's Carol Matz's Famous and Fun Classics. Now, give me a thumbs up if you've used this series before. If you haven't, then make sure you grab it. It's a 5 or 6 book series. Carol's got Famous and Fun Pop, Famous and Fun Duets, Famous and Fun, well, all sorts of, it's a series, right? But the Famous and Fun Classics, good to see some thumbs up, are really great. Have them in your studio. I think you'll be really, really surprised at how engaging they are. So I just want to play you a couple of pieces from book 2 and 3. This is what I use for beginners. So if a student has learned to read the first, from sort of C to G in the right hand, then they can play a number of the pieces in book 1 and 2, and they come with teacher accompaniments. How good's that? So In the Hall of the Mountain King is one that I've used a number of times. you know the rest of it, so I'm not going to play much more of that. But the teacher part, and then later, and then later. It's a great fun to play. Students really enjoy this one, and they could take it away for a week maybe, come back, and you've got a little duet to play together. I think it's a real win-win situation. And they know the tune, so they'll enjoy playing it. It's got something like Jesu, Joy of Man's Desiring as well. And this time it's written in 3/4, so it's written relatively slowly, and it's got some really nice chords for the teacher. And together, I actually guarantee you, it sounds really, really great when the two parts come together. So there's lots of great classical themes in both these books. I won't go into too much detail. I did just want to show you from book 3, also Zarathustra, from Space Odyssey movie. Actually, I should start quietly. Now, I think I'd be right in saying that a lot of students would still recognise this tune. Now, this is from a long time ago. I mean, it was written by Strauss a long time ago, and then it was used in a movie that's very much old now. But again, kids know it because it's been used in advertising in particular. So I think something like that's a real winner. So definitely check out Carol Matz's books. Again, link on my timtopham.com/rap page. Thank you, Christine, for your helpful comment there. Now, also actually in that series, I should say, another one that I love is a simplified version of Clair de Lune. I couldn't find it this morning, but it's a really simplified arrangement that someone who's only been learning a year maybe, and who can do some basic note reading and count in 3/4 could learn. And in fact, it's really great for counting, because there's a lot of rests to count and hold to get it the right values. So that's also in the Famous and Fun Classics. And I should let you know that Carol's coming on my podcast later this month too. We did our recording not long ago. So Carol Matz live on the podcast during Pop Month, and she's coming in to talk to us about arranging and some tips for arranging, because I couldn't play all that stuff and teach with it so many times and not have her on the podcast to ask her about arranging. So there we go. Okay, so the last thing I want to show you before we wrap up today is an online site. And it's called G Major Music Theory. I don't know if anyone has heard this site. It's not the best domain name for what's there. It's probably got a lot of theory stuff, but I've actually never used it. But it has a whole lot of awesome arrangements of simple tunes, and it's arranged by primer, level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and they're all free. It's all out of copyright music. So a guy called Gilbert De Benedetti, I think his name is, has put these together, and they're freely available, and I've used these heaps in my teaching. They are great fun, and kids really enjoy them, and you can just grab them. So why wouldn't you, I would say. So the link to his website is at timtopham.com/rap. Just scroll down the page till you get to Repertoire Raps 6, which is this one, and you'll see the links to everything I've talked about today. So let me show you a couple of things that I've used on his site. Firstly, and again, teachers, don't groan at me. I'm going to show you a simplified level 1 version of For Elise. And again, this is one that students can learn if they can read 5-finger position, C major position in both hands, and they understand what a flat, a natural, and a sharp is. They could play this. And it goes like this. This is just a C minor chord, G7, and at the end, a little crossover at the end. Really approachable, really straightforward, but for someone that's new to music reading, you've got a piece there that might take a couple of weeks to learn. They're going to love it because it's something that they've always wanted to play and everyone wants to play. I still haven't worked out why everyone wants to play for Elise so much. I don't think it's ever going to fail to be one of those pieces that we all teach all the time. It's amazing, isn't it? So there you go. That's I'll give you a close-up view. That's what it looks like. Oh, good to see some thumbs up for that one. So that's a great simple example of the kind of music that is on this website. Another one that I learned, that I've used is this one. Now, I know the musical theory purists will not be happy with the second chord in the left hand. It's not true to the original exactly, but that's okay. This is just an arrangement. It's okay. It's going to be good fun. All right. So Rondo alla Turca is also in this. What key am I in? Nice simple version of that. Of course, I'm picking all the ones, as you should be as well, that students are going to enjoy because they're going to know them. I mentioned that morning song, Peer Gynt, was in this. It actually comes up in just about every simplified arrangement of books, okay? Nice to see you, Kaz, as well. Welcome to the video today. So I like this one because it's good. You know, most of you will know that I have a fairly chordal approach to teaching. Now that doesn't mean I don't teach an intervallic note reading approach, but whenever I can relate something to chords that students are learning, I will try and make that connection because it's so important, in my opinion, in learning about music, making that connection with harmony. So this one starts in C major, and then at the second time, we're into a new key position. And so this is a great opportunity to discuss with students or ask them, what chord are we in now? What position? We've effectively modulated, and they're now in root position E major, both hands. And it goes in, does exactly the same thing in E major. And then we're back to. So what I have talked to them about is, well, it's quite an unusual chord progression to go from C to E major. And what does it do? Well, how does that affect the sound? And students will often say, well, it's kind of uplifting, isn't it? It's like something grand's happening, the sun's coming out, and, well, it's called morning song, right? So how could they then use that potentially in their own composing or their own chord progression? That's the kind of questions that I love and discussions that I love having with students too. Thanks, Pamela. Nice to see you. Glad you enjoyed today's presentation. The other thing you could do with this is we could continue the movement up the piano. So it's gone from C to the major third. Could we go from here to the major third? That's G sharp major. And if we go to the major third, we're back to C major. It's an interesting chord progression, actually, if you continue it up. So that's just a little aside about the kind of way that I teach and the things that I get students to think about. Last couple of pieces. So this is again from G Major Music Theory, the website that I've been talking about. Also has this. And I've used this tune because I love it myself. Give me a thumbs up if you like the Shaker hymn, Simple Gifts, by what's been used by lots of people. I love the Copeland version. Aaron Copeland's version is fantastic. I've always loved it and I've always taught it, and it's great for teaching kids when it comes to arranging. It's a really good piece for that too. Uses some simple chords, and you can, thanks for the thumbs up, you can easily change the chords too and create different arrangements. So great tune. That's on his website as well. Simple Gifts. And I think the last one I'll show you, he's got a number of Christian and hymns and those type of folk tunes as well, the old school ones that students really love. So there's this. I made that bit up. So that's the Battle Hymn of the Republic. Great tune for students. If you want to help them understand and feel a dotted rhythm, absolute winner. And it's all freely available on his website. So I hope that's been helpful. A little bit of an overview of the kinds of music that I like using for students as real hooks in to help them, remotivate them if they're lacking in practice a little bit, or if you've got a fairly heavy schedule of competition performance and exam preparation and that sort of thing, to throw in a couple of easy pieces at a significantly lower level than the student's already operating at. I mean, you could give that battle hymn that I just played then to a student who's been playing for 4 or 5 years and just say, have some fun with this, over this week, and play it next week. And maybe I'll play along with you and do some, and you just have some fun with it for 5-10 minutes of a lesson. Or, as I say, you could use it for students who just need that little bit of a hook back in to remotivate them, give them something fun that they recognise and they can make a connection to because it's perhaps been on TV or an ad or used in a film, and that sort of thing. So, just wanted to quickly remind you before I sign off today that this month we've just started my pop teaching month. And as I mentioned right at the start, many of you will know me from my pop teaching work, and one of my big passions is helping teachers to teach in a way that really engages students. And part of that approach is becoming more and more about using pop music in your lesson. So this month is all about pop, and I'm starting it off with a webinar, in fact 2 live webinars at different times to suit different time zones this weekend. So if you are in the States or Australia, your time is in the States Saturday night, that's Melbourne Sunday morning. And so that's also Hong Kong, Perth, Singapore, that's Sunday morning for you guys. It's a little bit early, but grab a coffee and you can join us. It's about 7 o'clock, 9 o'clock Melbourne time, or in the States, 7 p.m. And I'm doing a second live webinar broadcast, and that's at 7 p.m. London time on Sunday night, which is my Monday morning at a time that I don't want to think about at the moment. But it's going to be great fun. I'll make sure I've had some coffee in the morning, and my goal with these webinars is to give you my top kind of 4 or 5 tips to the main questions I always get asked about teaching pop music. So things like, what do you do when the music's too hard? How to simplify? What's my approach with reading rhythm, which is always a challenge? Help choosing pop, and we're also going to cover, I'm going to give you a few little tips about how I use the chordal approach to teach students about composing and give them some steps to compose. And I call it my 4-chord composing method or idea. I'll show you a few ideas about that. If you can join me live, it'll be really good. So to find out about that, you can head to timtopham.com/training, and that should take you straight there. If you can't find that for some reason, then stay tuned to your email. I will make sure that the information gets sent out. You might have received it already. And finally, I'll set up a Facebook event. So if you're a Facebooker, as many of you are, I'll make sure I pop the details on there. So I hope that's been really helpful for you today. I'll see many of you this weekend live on the webinar. I hope you can join me for that. And again, if you've got any questions or thoughts about any of what I've covered today, then head to timtopham.com/rap. I'll put the link in the comments as soon as I finish this. Head there and you can quickly download anything that I've talked about today. If you would like to give me a bit of a thumbs up or a heart, or even better, a little share it would be really, really appreciated. If you find these helpful, I would love to spread the word about them to more people. So do tell them about that, and press that share button for me. It would be really, really appreciated. Thank you, Peter, for your joining us today, and also for Biff and everyone else. I saw a few people pop in to the call. It's been great to see you all, and I look forward to speaking to you again soon. Thanks for the hearts. I can see them popping up now. I'm going to sign off. Hope you enjoy your day, or if you're over in the States, or even if you're in London, it's probably bedtime for you. I think it's probably about midnight or close to. Signing off now. Thanks very much, everyone. Speak to you again soon.